Faye has now learned his lesson as he explained how he used to handle the pressure of completing work ahead of the Tobaski. He took time to advise his fellow tailors to avoid the risk of taking in unlimited amount of work which they could hardly complete in time for the Tobaski feast. This, he says, often brings unnecessary problems between tailors and their customers. A walk around Banjul shows how tailors are frantically racing against time as they attempt to complete what remains, in some cases, a huge workload. The window is closing in and customers are breathing down their necks, but these tailors are not resting. No sleep and little time to relax. While some are busy at their machines, others are ironing, fixing pails, and before they are ready for display. The market was busy with tailors all engaged, but the question now is, will these tailors be able to complete the outfits of their customers? Rohi Bitey, GRTS News.
Still on preparations for tomorrow's feast, the build-up to this Feast of Tobaski is always an extraordinarily busy period in the capital city. This is so because Banjul is one of the busiest gateways to the provinces. Thousands of people usually cross to Bara from the main terminal. But as we hear in this report by Louis Mendy, crossing is even a bigger challenge because this year only one ferry is in service whilst others are being repaired.
Preparations for the Tobaski feast are in high gear, and in the Gambia, where many are anticipating reunion with their families in the provinces, the Banjul Ferry Terminal is the gateway to those traveling via North Bank region. However, situations emerging from the country's busiest crossing point indicated that activities there are slower this year round. The reason is that 2 of the 3 ferries that usually ply the 7 nautical miles are on maintenance. Only one of them, Kanilai, is operational. Notwithstanding, the Gambia Post Authority seems determined to help the teeming mass of people with fleets of vehicles and animals storming the terminal get to Bara. Kadijata Suare heads to Medina City Mass in the North Bank region. Waiting for her turn to cross, she urged her fellow travelers to remain calm, insisting it has always been smooth to cross to the other side of the river, unlike this year. These boats, dozens of them complementing services provided by the ferries, are busier than ever. Security personnel responsible for ensuring their compliance with safety precautions are on the ground. One of them, Alajin Dur, said they couldn't have been more vigilant a week after a small fishing boat capsized, leaving 8 people dead. The capacity of these boats range from 35 to 70 passengers. Passengers are provided with life jackets each. Security officers on the ground told GRTS the boats are safe. An interesting picture here as ram dealers are also busy offloading their rams from the other end of Bara ahead of the feast. Tobaski is usually a busy period in the Muslim calendar, bringing even non-Muslims into the mix. This is a grand celebration of the Feast of Sacrifice, and few are left behind in the festivities. Louis Mendy, GRTS.
After nearly 48 hours of rigorous meetings and heated debates, delegates at the African Regional Conference on Population and Development were set to adopt the draft report on population beyond 2014. But as Asatumane reports, the meeting never reached a consensus because some countries rejected the draft, which does not suit either their culture and tradition or their respective national constitutions.
The 2-day convergence by African ministers on population and development beyond 2014 in the Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa saw the sharing of diverse views by the different countries represented, some of whom either accepted or rejected the draft document, citing some clauses as inapplicable and unacceptable in their countries. The Addis Ababa Declaration failed to gain 100% approval from about 17 countries, including the Gambia, who first came up with the suggestion that some clauses in the document should be changed for it to be applicable in the country.
I quite agree with what the chairman of the group explained, but I think the reason why we are here discussing is for us to take the outcome of this meeting back home and be able to implement it. So it should take on board what the thinking is around the hall. For me, what I think we should do is, just like you ended what you were explaining, I think it will be important for us not to stop at without distinction of any kind. I think we should also add, based on the constitution, the respective constitutions, culture and norms, so that people will either take it on board or drop it based on whatever prevails in their countries.
The United Nations Under-Secretary General Dr. Carlos Lopez, during the closing ceremony, revealed that the draft document, when approved, will be presented to the United Nations General Assembly in New York as Africa's Population Declaration beyond 2014. Dr. Carlos therefore called on the 52 participating nations to reach an agreement for the benefit of the continent.
I would like to suggest that given the very long conversations and discussions that took place in the informal setting, that we go back to that spirit. And the spirit, I think, was very clear that the majority of the paragraphs, to not to say the bulk of the paragraphs were not contentious, except for these three, and that we probably could try to reach as much ground as possible to have language that will appease the discomfort that many have expressed, but most likely it was going to be a very daunting task to try to appease that discomfort completely.
For the Vice President and Women's Affairs Minister, the declaration will to a large extent help the continent achieve its ICPD targets beyond 2015. But she was also quick to reiterate the need for the declaration to be suitable for use in their respective countries, citing that the deadline for the achievements of the Millennium Development Goals is inching ever closer.
Let us keep an open mind to objectively review the progress we have made in the implementation of the 1994 ICPD Program of Action in Africa, and also collectively map out how we are going to fast-track that process and progress of Africa to improve economic growth and sustainable development in the implementation of the ICPD beyond 2014. As individual member states, therefore, we have the sovereign right to express our individual positions, and as Africans, we have the collective responsibility to each shift grounds in the negotiation of our declaration of this regional conference on the review of the ICPD beyond 2014 to ensure that we find a common voice as Africans and as a continent in the interest of building a more prosperous and peaceful Africa for all.
After what was a spirited debate among participants, the draft document was finally adopted, with 17 countries rejecting some clauses embedded in the declaration, which they described as unsuitable for implementation in their countries.
The conference has given us another opportunity as a continent to look at our priorities in terms of population and development. What are the issues that we need to help place our people in the center of our development? Clearly for me, a few issues have come up. First is that we need to ensure that every girl child goes to school up to secondary school level at the minimum, for us to be able to harness the potentialities that girls and women bring to our continent. The second is that Africa has a very youthful population, and that population means that if Africa will develop, we need to invest more in young people.
So it is left for delegates to either compromise and present a unified front at the UN General Assembly, or go divided and risk goals and targets set to be achieved by the year 2015, when the MDGs will be evaluated. For Grts News, I am Asitumane.
The Israeli military says it has discovered an illegal tunnel running into the country from Gaza. We have more on that and other international stories when we come back.
Network has taken advantage of the super-fast ACE internet platform to provide unequaled internet access speeds to all its clients. Gamcell's 3G network access devices has broadband connectivity appropriate for individual and business use. Connect to the internet using any of Gamcell's 3G modems. The 3G partner, appropriate for individual access for those who require internet connectivity on their laptops at all times. 3G Leisure can be used to create hotspots in restaurants, small businesses, and for family use. It is also designed for those who want to have internet access on the go. 3G Business for small medium enterprises, businesses, and corporate